If your flight gets canceled or delayed and the weather is not to blame, U.S. Airlines may soon have to compensate you. Nancy Cordes is at the White House with more on the rules.
When a cancellation is the airline's fault, the president says they should have to pay up.
You deserve to be fully compensated. Your time matters. The impact on your life matters.
Today, he vowed to roll out new rules by the end of the year, requiring airlines to cover things like rebooking fees, hotel stays, ground transportation, and meal vouchers when weather is not to blame.
Well, this is about
Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg says the government may not stop there.
So is there a possibility you could require the airlines to give people cash?
That's absolutely something that could happen under this proposed rule.
He pointed to the European Union, which now requires airlines to pay passengers between 250 and 600 euros for avoidable delays.
These rules are unnecessary.
U.S. carriers pushed back today, arguing they'll just have to pass those new costs on to customers.
Ticket prices will go up, plain and simple. That's what happened in Europe. That's what will happen here.
The 10 largest airlines do now guarantee meals and free rebooking when delays are their fault. 9 of them also cover hotel stays.
Airlines say they're already doing some of this voluntarily, that you don't need to make a rule.
I guess I would say if they're already doing this, then they shouldn't mind us making a rule.
One big question here is who exactly would determine when cancellations are the airline's fault. Think back to December when the Southwest Airlines scheduling system melted down, leading to 17,000 cancellations. Well, it was a winter storm in Denver that started that chain reaction. So these things, John, can be tricky to parse.
Tricky indeed. Nancy Cordes at the White House. Thank you. For more on this, I am joined by Brian Summers. He is the founder and editor of the Airline Observer, a newsletter covering the business of airlines. So, Brian, let's pick up where Nancy Cordes just laid off, which is how many cancellations and delays are preventable, and then how many might fall into this category that, well, they might have been preventable, but they're also, the mayhem was caused by weather.
Nobody knows the answer to that question, John, and I think it's kind of amusing. You know, I read the press release that the Biden administration put out today, and of course, they talked about the things that you highlighted in the piece. But one of the other things they said is for the first time in history, the government planned to define what is considered a controllable cancellation. So we know certain things definitely are, right? If it's a maintenance event, if it's crew availability, the flight crew doesn't show up because somebody got sick, you'd call that a controllable cancellation because the airline should have reserve crews. There are all kinds of situations people know when they fly where, you know, it's sort of half weather, a little bit air traffic control, and then the airline messes up at the last moment. So the question is, you know, how many delays can you possibly blame on the airline? I'm really looking forward to seeing this final rule to see what the Biden administration decides is actually a controllable cancellation.
And some of those things you named made me think of, you know, who's going to be the Inspector Gadget who goes hunting after the crew situation, or whether it seems like a lot of investigative action has to take place in these incidents where it's obviously in the airline's interest to, fight back or say that it was not under their own control.
You're not wrong at all. You know, people bring up European Union as the gold standard. Not only do I write about airlines, but I fly a long time. Once I had some legal action, I think with Lufthansa Group. I mean, even in Europe, the airlines are fighting this nonstop. There's actually third parties that have come out, and so they will plead your case for you with the airlines if you're rejected. I know in the European Union, most of the time, you know, airlines have the final say over whether they're going to accept or reject your claim. So you're absolutely right. This is not a slam dunk at all.
And do you assume that prices will go up to compensate for these new rules?
It's so hard to say. I mean, I'm not surprised that the chief lobbyist for the airline industry is saying that, right? That's his job. I know airlines don't like the government telling them what to do. This is something that we'll have to see and wait to see what happens.
And also, we are in the post-pandemic era. There were all of those changes and stresses and challenges. American Airlines is having a situation with its pilots. Give us a sense of how strained the airline industry is right now. whether it's by their own hand or circumstances. And now we have this new set of challenges coming into the airline industry.
Yeah, well, it'll probably be a year or more before what we heard about today is actually going to be into effect. But airlines did have some challenges last year. You know, they would tell me that, look, it is very hard to go from a situation where 90% of people are not flying into a situation where every American wants to fly. They had had a lot of turnover in staff. They had retired planes. They had to bring them out. People are a lot more bullish about this summer. I think most of the airlines feel that they have their affairs in order. I will also tell you that behind the scenes, I hear from a bunch of airlines who say, look, this is kind of unfair that the government is going after us because the FAA has so many problems. So just this summer, the FAA told airlines, you may voluntarily want to cut 10% of your flights in the New York area because we don't think the air traffic control system can handle it. We see some issues with air traffic control capacity in the state of Florida as well. So airlines are definitely pushing back, and they say, yes, we have some issues, but the government has some issues as well.
Is any airline trying to take advantage of this, which is to say in an era where people always have a beef or often have a beef about the airlines and travel, is anyone saying, well, we're going to meet that with extra customer service, with some way in which we can take care of the customer as opposed to, you know, ever increasing smaller seats and smashing them through an ever more strained system? Is anybody trying to take advantage of this on the kind of the upside?
Yeah, I haven't heard an airline do that directly to customers, but I can tell you I listen to all the earnings calls. And United Airlines CEO Scott Kirby loves to criticize his competitors. He said a lot of them are flying too many flights, more than they can handle, and United has it right. I don't know what the data is going to show this summer, but he is very confident in his airline's operational reliability.
Well, we'll see at the end of the summer. Brian Summers, thanks a lot for being with us, founder and editor of the Airline Observer. Thank you.